It's human nature to identify patterns and similarities whenever we encounter something new. I often catch my mind doing this when I visit a new country, comparing the landscape or culture or people to a place or experience I've had in the past, trying to make sense of the new world unfolding all around me. But from the moment I arrived in Japan, I was unable to do this. My brain tried desperately to compare it to something familiar, to find the similarities and make sense of what I was experiencing, but there was simply nothing to compare it to. Nowhere in the world that came close to what I was experiencing. And I realized that the only thing I could do was embrace the newness with eyes wide open and see what happened. I am so excited to experience Japan for the first time with my cousin Jacob, who has dreamt of visiting this country for as long as I can remember, which is a long time. And on day one here in Kyoto, jet-lagged and sleep-deprived, we walked through the Fushimi Inari Shrine with a childlike sense of wonder.
I think it's like officially hitting me that we are in Japan, in one of the most iconic spots. This feels surreal to be here.
Exploring Kyoto felt like stepping back into ancient Japan. For more than 1,000 years, from the 7th century until the mid-1800s, this city was the capital of Japan. And today, it is still considered the heart of Japanese culture, home to more than 2,000 temples and shrines and 17 UNESCO World Heritage Sites.
So we both came here thinking that there would be like, you know, a few meters of arches.
Arch and some rows, yeah.
Arch and some rows, and we ended up hiking all the way to the top of the mountain thanks to this guy. I was like, are we really doing this? And we did. The top wasn't like the most magnificent thing in the world,
and so many
the
like
whole journey.
secrets. Like, look at this.
So if you keep walking through the arches, you'll make it to like this land of shrines, like smaller shrines, and it's the most peaceful, beautiful area. And there's not a lot of people here, and there's all these bamboo branches all over. It's really freaking cool. So here we are at one of the most beautiful Buddhist temples I have ever seen. Actually, the most beautiful. I have not seen many.
It's so cool.
I
It's
know.
really cool. So we're just taking it in.
I just feel so at peace here. It's just wonderful.
This sense of peace and zen is ever present here in Japan. But there's one place in particular that takes it to the next level.
Okay, so we have just checked in to our first time ever staying in a traditional Japanese ryokan in Hakone. This was an absolute must for us to do on this trip. So we obviously took our shoes off here, and then this is the main room. Here we've got a little green tea set up, and then through here is our beds, and we've got a lovely view of the surrounding neighborhood, and the mountains. Okay, so I'm officially dressed in the traditional cotton robe. I believe this is called a yukata. And yeah, they provided it for us here at the ryokan. So I immediately put it on because I'm very much a robe girly. So I'm really enjoying this. We are having some Japanese green tea. I did make it slightly too strong. Oh my god, it's so strong.
Probably gonna be like sprinting, like down to the bottom of the mountain, and then back up.
Just gonna be extra caffeinated for our little onsen adventure, which is happening in, what would you say, Jake, like 20 seconds?
Yeah, something like that.
I think I'm ready. These geothermal baths have been used by the Japanese for hundreds of years for relaxation, healing, and spiritual rejuvenation. And after several days of battling jet lag and sightseeing in the freezing cold temperatures, this absolutely revived me.
Good morning from Lake Ashinoko. I have just arrived. It's about 9:30 a.m. Jake decided to sleep in, so I decided to get an early start to go see Mount Fuji. And I am super lucky today because it is the clearest, sunniest blue sky day, which is absolutely not guaranteed here in Hakone. Oftentimes Mount Fuji is completely covered in clouds like it was yesterday on the train. So I'm hoping to have my first look at Mount Fuji today.
To be honest, I didn't have much of a plan this morning, but when I walked past the port just as a sightseeing cruise pulled up to the dock, I spontaneously decided to get on. I figured it would be the easiest way to see Mount Fuji, but I was not prepared for how quickly it happened.
We are not even 1 minute into this cruise and I can see Mount Fuji so clearly. Oh my God.
As we pulled away from Hakone and Mount Fuji, I realized that our trip was about to take a major turn. The ancient history and calm, tranquil atmosphere of the last week would soon be replaced by bright neon lights and the energy of millions in the biggest city in the world.
We are in Tokyo!
I spent the next few days in full sensory overload, trying to process the fact that this was in fact a real place and not just a dream. That I was actually here, in the city that I'd only seen and heard about in movies and songs my whole life.
So we've just arrived in our Tokyo Airbnb. When I tell you, I've stayed at many Airbnbs. I've never had a host do this. They texted me that they left a little gift on our doorknob, and
They brought us an entire, basically like care package for Tokyo. All these maps, some Coke and water. I'm pretty sure this is beer. And then some hand warmers because it's cold. Crosby from the future here to let you know that I have just finished my Japan blog post where I detail everything we did, where we stayed, what we did, what we ate. So I've linked it down below in the description box on my Notion site. And speaking of Notion, thank you so much for sponsoring today's video. And before you fast forward to the rest of the video, let me just quickly tell you that if you are considering going to Japan, which I'm assuming you are if you're watching this video, I'm warning you in advance, planning for this trip is no joke and you are gonna wanna be as organized as possible so you don't lose your mind. And lucky for you and me, Notion has hundreds of free travel planning templates that you can choose from, customize, and kind of input all of your travel dates, reservations, things that you have planned, etc. As you can see here, I've got my to-do list, content calendar, blog posts, and I've got all the travel planning templates right here, all on Notion. I've been using them for over 5 years to grow my business, plan my trips, and basically just organize my entire life. So definitely go check out my blog post and the link in my description. And while you're on Notion, just browse around. I think you're gonna love all of the many templates they have. It's very satisfying to use.
I knew going into this that it would be impossible to see and do everything in this endless city. So instead, we decided to lean into two main things over the next few days: shopping and eating. Lots and lots of eating.
Well, that was easily one of the coolest culinary experiences I've ever had. Oh my God, it's so good. The strawberry obsession here is unreal. This is seriously some of the best food I've ever eaten.
Now don't get me wrong, we've been eating good from the second we arrived in Japan. It's almost impossible to have a bad meal here. The standards are astronomical. In Kyoto, we stumbled upon this gorgeous restaurant in Arashiyama where I tried Wagyu steak for the first time. The entire setup of the meal was so unique and the beef was so high quality that it literally melted in my mouth. And then of course, no trip to Japan is complete without a stop, or in our case, about 20 stops, at the glorious 7-Elevens that you can pretty much find around every corner in Japan.
So it is morning one in Japan. We're already in a 7-Eleven because I'm very hungry and 7-Elevens here are legendary. So we're gonna pick out some goodies. Okay, we're back at our hotel. We're gonna do a little 7-Eleven taste test with all of our goodies that we got. In total, this was about like 1,800 yen. I forget what these are called, but they're
Onigiri or something?
maybe an onigiri. This one is tuna mayonnaise and it's wrapped in, I believe, seaweed. They have like so many rice balls. I don't really even know what it is.
Basically, it's a softer type of mochi. This one is like a soft, it's like a soft boiled egg with like pork.
This one is wrapped in trout and vinegared rice. I really don't know what this is. 7-Eleven deli cup. Okay, the dough, oh my God, it's so soft. Put the rice thing into the seaweed. I'm probably doing this wrong. Turnip, cucumber, and salted kelp. These are combinations I've never tried before. Honest thoughts.
I think I hyped it up a little bit too much.
Ooh, I like it.
Okay. That's quite nice.
That is so delicious. This is a little fishy for me. You don't like it?
No.
I think this is gonna be my go-to snack here.
But the culinary scene in Tokyo absolutely stole the show for me. From street food to local markets to Michelin star restaurants and everything in between, I would go as far to say it is the best food I've eaten anywhere in the world.
For $50, I think that was like 20 or 22 courses. I am shook. That was so fun.
Omakase sushi isn't just a nice meal. It is truly an experience. The word omakase literally means I leave it up to you, and that is exactly what you do. Instead of a set menu, the chef essentially crafts a personalized tasting menu with the freshest ingredients of the day, and you get to watch them create these perfect bites of sushi right in front of you, ranging from fatty tuna to sea urchin to sea eel. It was magnificent. But despite how much we enjoyed our omakase meal, you'll be surprised to know that this was not how we ate the majority of our time in Japan. This was ramen, ramen, and you guessed it, more ramen. I could not get enough, especially being here during the winter. But the ramen joint that altered my brain chemistry the most was Ichiran Ramen. During one of our busy shopping days in Shibuya,
Got some new platform Air Force Ones.
we ducked underground for lunch and entered an introvert's paradise. After ordering and paying on the screen when you walk in, you wait for one of these ramen isolation booths to open up, and after sitting down, your steaming bowl of ramen is delivered to you directly from the kitchen without having to talk to a single person. It is a heavenly experience, and yes, the ramen is as perfect and delicious as it looks. But in true Japan fashion, my mind was blown yet again by something I was not expecting: the street food.
Yeah, I got the eel. I don't even know if I've tried eel before, so. Oh my God. It's so good. It like falls off. It's so tender.
From the Tsukiji Outer Market in Ginza, where we meander through the bustling fish market, indulging in the endless fresh catches of the day, to the lively and nostalgic alleyways of Amoide Yokocho in Shinjuku, a place that transports you back to post-World War II Japan when this area originated. There are dozens of these open-air eateries lining the narrow alleyways that you can squeeze into and enjoy some of the best street food in the world for $1 to $2 per dish.
We're going in for round 2 because we devoured that way too quickly.
We ordered plate after plate of the charcoal grilled meat skewers, which is the specialty here. And there are also some more exotic choices like grilled salamander and frog sashimi if you're feeling adventurous.
What a freaking trip. It has been 3 weeks since I left Japan, and I literally can't stop thinking about it, and editing this video just brought me back, and I was able to relive everything, and just what a place, what a country. And I know I'm gonna be going back, which is why I wasn't so sad that I was only there for 12 days. I was trying to just really enjoy it rather than like freak out about all the things I wasn't doing, because Japan is so diverse. There is so much to do. And yeah, like I said, this was our first trip to Japan, so we really wanted to kind of hit the highlights. But the whole time that we were there, we were like, okay, when we come back, we're gonna go here and we're gonna do this thing. So comment down below if you've been to Japan, or if you are planning to go and there are certain things that you're like, you gotta do this, please comment them down below. And you know, I didn't really want this video to be kind of an itinerary video of like, this is what we did here and this day and this day. I wanted it to really encapsulate what it was like visiting Japan for the first time, because there is no place like it in the world. And for me, there is truly like no other place I can compare it to. I felt every single day like I was entering this alien world in the best way possible. It was just so different, and yeah, it's really hard to describe. So I do hope that you guys are planning to go one day. It's incredible, and make sure to check out my itinerary blog post in the link below if you do want some help planning. I linked everywhere that we stayed, all the things that we did, restaurants that we went to that we really loved. So hopefully that'll be helpful. But yeah, I'm currently filming this in Hoi An, Vietnam. This is the beginning of the next couple months of probably the biggest adventure I've ever done. Definitely the biggest adventure I've ever done solo. So yeah, I'm just gonna give you one word: motorbike. And hopefully that will clue you in to the next series on this YouTube channel. And if you want a little peek into what I've been up to since this video, go check out my Instagram at Crosby Travels, and you will see all the things that I've been up to here in Vietnam. It's been insane. So make sure to like this video and subscribe for more. And I hope you have an amazing trip to Japan, and I will see you in Vietnam. Bye.